Now we're going to move on to the next presentation. And the subject is making the moment of truth matter via social archetyping. And I'm going to introduce Cordell Lawrence, who's the Global Community Manager of Jack Daniel's. And Cordell has led explosive growth of Jack Daniel's to the top brand on Facebook in the spirits and wine category. That's a huge achievement. And then Tom Troja, who's the founder of Social Symphony and creator of social archetyping. This is really fascinating stuff. I think you're really going to enjoy it. Social Symphony has created meaningful conversations for brands such as Jack Daniel's, Red Bull, Chevron, Marriott Rewards, and others. Welcome to the stage, Cordell and John, or Tom.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm sure we're all feeling the effects of last night's game, positive or negative. But I'm glad that I was able to join you all for this. It's my first iMedia Summit. I think Tom's been to about a dozen or so.
About that.
And apologies to Bob earlier for the wine reference. We're going to be crashing this with a bottle of Jack, just to let you know. So we can go to the first slide.
It's working.
There we go. So Jack Daniel's, traditional, conservative brand, been around since 1866. But we as marketers are always doing the same thing, right? We're doing one of two things. We're either influencing desire or we're changing beliefs. That's what we're here to do, regardless of what your brand is. And I will be the guy in the room that says at the iMedia Summit that we have become obsessed with media targets, absolutely obsessed. And what has been the consequence of that is we've lost our core belief set and personality. So what we did is we reinvigorated Jack and went back to our roots. Next slide, please. This is Jack Daniel's, center of the stage, white hat, over his shoulder. Thanks. Over his shoulder is Lim Motlow, his nephew who inherited the brand after he left. Jack actually passed away after kicking a safe and a gangrene infection set in. These are all stories that can be retold over time. All brands have these. Who's this? Anybody? The guy on the right, far right. Frank. Mr. Sinatra, the chairman of the board. And even the tension in this picture is interesting. Dean is kind of looking off in the other direction. Frank's focused on pouring himself a drink, and then Sammy's trying to talk to him about what, who knows. But again, these are all stories that tie back to the brand Jack. Jack's made in a real place, Lynchburg, Tennessee, a city of 361 people proud to make Tennessee whiskey. This is our nightlife. The latest the restaurant stays open is about 6 o'clock. This is the town square. And in the distance, a barrel house, aging Jack Daniel's. So this first slide is where we were performing back in December of '09. This was before I started, of course, on the brand. So we weren't doing anything good, right? And then all of a sudden, I'm hired in late summer of 2011, and everything starts exploding, right? Which it did happen. Then we talked to Tom at Social Symphony. We actually spent 2 full days at our offices beating each other up, not physically, but metaphorically, over where we're going to end up with the archetypes for Jack Daniel's. And he'll tell more about that a little bit later. But what happened was, is we saw this instant connection with our place in pop culture, but then our place of being made in a small town in Lynchburg, Tennessee. And people gravitated towards that. And the results speak for themselves. I'm not going to bore you with all the numbers. And then here's a roll-up of everything through the end of this past year.
Honey.
Jack Honey, another brand. And people say, well, how'd you make this any different than Jack Daniel's? It comes from the core, How could you possibly differentiate? We invigorated it with another character, the King Bee. I don't know if you've seen the commercial, but it's pretty awesome. And with that, I will pass it over to Tom to go into the science of how it's done.
Thanks, buddy. So, social archetyping is really the process of waking up every day and not having to worry, what am I going to say today? And what Jack has such a great, rich history in the ability to look at archetypes from the hero and the explorer and the outlaw and really be able to fully form that footprint and then use it. And so when Cordell was talking about, what those numbers, and you see those charts, which are, when he sent me that chart, because I hadn't seen it in a while, and it's like Mount Everest exploded, so I was really pleased to see it. But this idea of fully forming the personality, what does that really mean? And, a typical post, no explanation needed. I mean, that's classic. Well, of course there is, but they get it. And because with an archetype, it's already in your head. And you already know this stuff, and everyone at that table, it's a little different. But that's okay, because when you start saying things like, good words to live by, and it has this is the day-to-day motto, the working motto of Jack Daniels, every day we make it the best we can. And so it's not that the images are different or unique or crazy or, it's just they speak to it's hip to be square. And when you look, at the numbers, 40,000 people like it's hip to be square, 6,000 people share it. And those charts you saw, that's from sharing. I mean, that's really where you get engagement from. So what we're actually doing here is adding shortcuts to meaning. In mobile, in social, in local, everything has to be short. Everything has to be tight. And so archetypes connect with stuff that's already in your head. We're born with the idea of the hero, just like your mother. It's in our DNA, and that's what archetypes are all about. So we all understand what an explorer is. We know what an outlaw is. And so we add these shortcuts to meaning and say, drink to remember, not to forget. Again, another definition. We all have our own little way to remember that one. But making in-laws tolerable since 1866. So what we do is we sit and write this stuff with you as a brand, as the team. And we sat, and the wonderful thing about Jack is about 4 o'clock, we actually do bring out the bottle of Jack because we've been writing all day. It'll be ready when it's ready. Again, so numbers come, and what matters here is that it's not a home run every day. There's no way. We're not trying to. What we're trying to do is to make sure that every time you see Jack Daniels in your stream, on the wall, anywhere, your eyes kind of go, oh, it's Jack, as opposed to what you're about to see. Who remembers this? Come on, somebody. Shooting gerbils out of a cannon. I mean, have we ever lived, this was the year, what year? Mark, come on, you remember .com crash, 2000. Guys had so much money, didn't know what to do, so we'll buy Super Bowl commercials and we'll shoot gerbils out of a cannon, and we'll remember the name Outpost.com. Who remembers Outpost.com? Yeah, it worked really well, didn't it? So, the point is, I look at this now and I see stuff going on and I call it shooting gerbils. So here's a few. Don't mean to pick on any brands. I want to raise the consciousness that this stuff matters. That every day you got to get on target and you have to communicate well. You don't have to do Super Bowl commercials every day, but you need to be good. And so we all know every day we're trying to build brand equity. As a brand, who's trying to destroy brand equity? Nobody wouldn't be in this room. But when you see these kinds of engagement rates and you see these numbers, you know this is not good. Not picking on any type of brand or any kind of brand, but who has a laundry resolution? This was 30 days ago, guys. All right? Every touch point's a brand experience, right? Every time I see a brand. And that's why on Facebook, am I going to pay attention to Jack Daniels? I think I will. But when these brands that come up and they start doing things like, who are you turning on to me today? And when we looked at this, moments of truth, every moment matters. There's nothing more real than in social, in mobile, where every moment you've got a chance, an opportunity to connect with somebody, and you're just not even close. And so I point out not to denigrate any brand whatsoever, but to point out that we're at a point in time now where this stuff matters. And so what do we do? And what's Jack Daniel doing so well? And I call this the new social storytelling. It's making meaningful connections every day. And so when Cordell, he's not stressed out, by the way, because he knows he's got the schedule filled out for the month, and we kind of know how to do this. And the reason those charts went like this is in the last 5-6 months, we know how to, I should say, Cordell knows how to be the conductor of the orchestra. He knows how to play a note on Thursday. And if he puts this certain comment, and if he uses the everyman archetype from a spiritual perspective with this kind of image, I'm gonna get 40,000 likes, 7,000 shares. I just know it, because that's what happens. So this idea here is about every day playing the notes, and every day being a little different, because you can't hit that same note every day, it gets annoying. And so I can be the magician one day, I can be these certain archetypes that I am, and I really can't say what they are because it is them. But the idea of all linking back to a core, using these little pieces of stories. And the idea of social is not to tell a story, because you can't in 5 words. But you can link them together so people get the relevance, they get you. And using that archetype, again, it's already innately inborn within us, that it's interesting on its own. It just kind of stands there, and it makes them feel good. I feel better, and Jack's sales are through the roof. I can't take full credit for this, but it's certainly there's something going on here. And this is not just about social. So I'm going to ask you guys to do something for me, and that's as a group, at the count of 3, could you all read this out loud? 1, 2, 3.
What we sell is the ability.
Thank you. That's archetypal marketing. That's what that 43-year-old accountant has, this stuff in his head. He was born with it. And if you really asked him what he's doing, he can't really explain it. But there's stuff driving us, and there's stuff driving the person who drinks Jack Daniels, the person who reaches for a Perrier. Why are you doing this? And so I believe that it is based on how we see ourselves and also how we want people to perceive us. And so there's this deeper level to what's missing in all of you. The beauty is with archetypal marketing, it's already in my head. I don't have to, jump and say, make a vanity plate, or, I can do littler things that connect with what matters. And with the multidimensional archetyping, I can get at a broad swath of you. So who knows who this is? The 70-year-old guy selling beer to 20-year-olds. Let's just be honest, right? So what are they doing here? When you look and deconstruct the imagery that they go through very quickly in an ad, and what do they do every time? And he's literally the outlaw playing cards with the Indians in the forest, the magician pulling the rabbit out of his hat, the hero being knighted by the queen, the sage in the monkey stew, and don't forget the lover. So how do you get to a 20-year-old to get him to say, this is cool, I'm gonna drink Dos Equis? It's multiple archetypes. And for me, a couple of years ago, this was the big aha when I kind of went, because all of you know archetypes, and everybody, we've kind of grown up in this idea that you're one archetype. And I believe now in social, we're multiple archetypes, or we can be. And that's where Jack has done such a great job, because it's not this Johnny one-note kind of thing. It's not just that 43-year-old accountant. You can reach people in a broader, different way and keep it interesting every day. And what is so cool is watching them play back to you who they are so they can impress their friends. So on Facebook, what you see is actually people playing back in their own style, to their friends. And that's what they care about, is they reveal themselves to the people they care about in a way that they want to kind of be cool. Or they, if you read some of these, they're fairly funny. It's small print, I know, but you recognize this guy. What are they doing? When you literally go through the imagery here and think about those flash, bang, what is it? He's in the kitchen as the lover, he's flying, playing his magic lute as the sage, he's walking on water as the hero, he's the outlaw on the bike, he's the explorer over Xanadu. What do we remember? This fully formed character? And so what we've been doing is working this in social, not using as much as the imagery, although we do, but it's really, what are you going to say today? And so answering the question every day, what am I going to say? What we're doing is grounding this in the essence of the brand, finding out, from all of the past. But for Jack Daniel's specific example, who sees Jack Daniel's as an outlaw brand? They're not outlaws, guys. I'm telling you, I know Cordell, he's not an outlaw. I've been to Lynchburg, they're not outlaws. But every time Hollywood makes a movie, they give a bottle of Jack to an outlaw. And so you got to deal with it. And so how do you play to that? And so Jack is not really comfortable being an outlaw, especially in conversation. When people are doing that, it's more about the maverick. So to sum up, we kind of wrote the workbook on this, and we've done an introduction to how to use this in conversation and build sub-archetypes so that it really works for you and is very custom. And then for each of these different archetypes, pull out who are you in these, in at least 4 segments, and we write. And so writing thousands and thousands of archetypes with the brand. We don't do this in terms of, here we tell you what you are, but the brand basically says who it is. Last slide, almost, is that this is important. On the left, you see all these wonderful brands. Is eMarketer in the house?
Yeah.
Please redo this slide because this ends in July 2012, but it shows this is the result. This is Jack Daniel's against all these great brands. And when you look over to the right, you can see this total engagement. And you guys could probably explain it better than I can. But the 176, 735 is people, friends sharing the content. And these are breakout numbers. And when Cordell showed this slide earlier, the first arrow was where we started this. The second arrow is the end of the eMarketer slide you just saw. And this third thing, whoops, is where we are now. And so congratulations to Jack Daniel's. Thank you very much. Good job.
Thanks, Tom. And guys, I'll take a bottle of Jack anytime over a bottle of wine.
Yeah, look under your seat.
That's great. Now we're going to move on to our third presentation, and I'd like to have these folks stand and come on the stage and explain what we're going to be doing. So it's Brandy Foyer, Mark Naples, Doug Weaver, and Jennifer Wainwright. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Wainwright. I'm here with Valvoline, and I'm leading the table discussions on channel budgets and really going to be talking through what are some of your challenges with your budgets and then hopefully some solutions that we can kind of learn from each other so you go back more empowered to manage your budgets the way you'd like.
Hi, I'm Brandy Fuhrer. I'll be talking about native advertising over in that corner. What are the challenges, the opportunities? What is it? Does it scale? And of course, our favorite question, what's the ROI?
Hi, everybody. I'm Mark Naples. I run Wit Strategy, which is a strategy and PR firm, so I know a little bit about fluff. There's a lot of fluff in big data, obviously. You heard a great speech this morning, great presentation about some of the truth and some of the real benefit of big data. We're going to talk about the bad news and the good news about big data in that corner over there.
I'm Doug Weaver from Upstream Group, and in the back corner of the room, my team is going to be talking about the programmatic future. There's an awful lot of buzz and hype and smoke about programmatic. There's a lot of great truth there as well. But the big question that remains is how much is the marketer going to control and how much are they going to offload to third-party vendors, agencies, and others. So it's all about the future of your brand in the programmatic world.
Thank you. All right, folks, start talking. Thank you.
So guys, just a reminder, take a look at page 16 on your books, and that'll give you some talking points to talk amongst yourselves. And make sure you're sitting at the table that you want to be discussing that topic for. Thanks a lot, everyone.